Silence is golden. Meditation matters by Angelo. Chapter 10. Vibrational Harmony. Quote, "The law of attraction will certainly and unerringly bring to you the conditions, environment, and experiences in life corresponding with your habitual, characteristic, predominant mental attitude." Close quote, and that's by Charles Haanel. This quote by Charles Haanel comes from his 1912 book, The Master Key System, which sets out 28 lessons on how to apply the law of attraction in our daily lives. You may notice the striking similarity between this quote and the one by Albert Einstein in the previous chapter. The law of attraction is not spiritual mumbo-jumbo, but is instead a fundamental law of nature. The law of attraction is stated as, "That which is like unto itself is drawn," or, put more simply, like attracts like. As Einstein suggests, this is pure physics. The term used in physics is resonance. Resonance is a phenomenon whereby a vibrating system or external force drives another system to oscillate with greater amplitude at specific frequencies. Resonance occurs with all types of vibrations or waves and includes mechanical, acoustic, electromagnetic, nuclear magnetic, electron spin, and quantum wave functions. Basically, the concept is that vibrations from one origin can impact vibrations in seemingly unrelated objects, energies, or systems. A well-known example is the ability of a human voice to shatter a wine glass, but there are countless others. Once we understand that the whole of creation is a perpetual movement of a single consciousness, then the concept of resonance across different aspects of manifestation makes perfect sense. People, places, and things may seem to be separate and distinct, but in truth they are all expressions of consciousness. The world is not just interconnected, it is all vibrational surface movement of a single ocean. This includes the frequency of our own beingness. The vibrations of an individual human being, therefore, have a tangible impact on its own experience and also on the energies and systems in its environment. Our state of being really does have the ability to change apparent reality. The obvious, simple application of the law of attraction is in the realm of positive thinking, but I would suggest that the subconscious level of mind, unfortunately, also plays a key part. Basically, we may try to think positive thoughts, but somehow these can be outweighed by a subconscious negative personal mindset. This leaves us trapped in a negative experience of life, however hard we try to think ourselves out of it. Even with positive thinking and determination, we will still be prone to the vibrational influences of the subconscious mind. Any sustainable solution to suffering, therefore, needs to address what Haanel calls our habitual, characteristic, predominant mental attitude. This implies going beyond our personal ego mind and moving self-identity increasingly towards consciousness, thereby increasing the vibrational frequency of our beingness. Once this happens, then we will attract and experience the qualities in life that we naturally desire. Haanel uses the word unerringly, and Einstein says, It can be no other way. These are very important words. There is no wiggle room when it comes to resonance and the law of attraction. We will always reap what we sow. We will always receive what we give. Once this is understood and fully accepted, then it becomes imperative that we do everything possible to increase and maintain a higher vibration of consciousness. Not only does this make sense, but it clearly points the way to a more enjoyable experience of life. The first noble truth of Buddhism is that life is suffering. We will continue to suffer until we raise our vibration. No amount of external fixing will ever solve the internal problem. Our individual vibration of consciousness, or beingness, is in a continuous state of flux. We move up and down the spectrum of consciousness, day to day and indeed moment to moment. There is never a permanent place to make a stand. The law of attraction will always apply in the moment, so it becomes apparent and necessary that our state of being requires constant vigilance. We may choose to let up on our practice and return to the surface state of selfish, self-centered, separate personhood, but we will inevitably suffer the consequences. This is not divine retribution by a punishing deity, but is simply the natural result of how consciousness actually works. We may think that we can be an exception and bend the rules in our favour, but such thinking is misguided. The rules are unerringly active in every moment. We have the power to shape our experience of life, but that power does not reside in our minds. It is actually our minds that are creating all of the problems. The solution is to detach from our minds so that our vibration can naturally increase. This is the way of meditation, but it needs to be all day, every day, rather than just occasionally. Outside of formal meditation practice, there are activities that we can undertake to increase our vibration. There are also actions that we can avoid taking in order to prevent a reduction in our beingness. We can inadvertently undo all of our good work by deliberately or accidentally engaging in activities that keep us stuck on the surface of mind. As mentioned before, we can take one step forward and one step backward, and then wonder why we're not getting anywhere. It's obviously much better to take the forward steps and simultaneously to avoid the backward ones. Progress is then guaranteed. A good metaphor in helping to understand this vibrational inconsistency is the example of placing an ice cube into a bowl of warm water. Obviously, when an ice cube is exposed to warm water, it begins to melt. It is resonance that causes this to happen. The temperature or vibration of the ice cube begins to merge with the temperature of the water. Each is impacting upon the other. The vibration of the ice cube gradually increases as the overall vibration of the water decreases, until they eventually reach equilibrium. Once this happens, the ice cube disappears and becomes the water. This happens unerringly. There is no scenario in which an ice cube will fail to melt when placed into warm water. There are two important points to note from this metaphor. Firstly, if the ice cube remains in the warm water for long enough, then it will, of course, vanish. This is the equivalent of the separate personal body-mind identity inevitably expanding into consciousness if dedicated practice is continued over a sufficient period of time. This is nirvana. Secondly, though, if the ice cube is dipped into warm water but then put back into a freezer, then clearly the ice cube will refreeze. The previous melting experience when in warm water will be reversed, and the original state of ice will return. Again, this is unerringly true. This is what we do when we dip into meditation practice for a period of time, but then return to selfish thinking and behavior. We melt and then refreeze, time and time again, over and over. If we are ever going to melt completely, then we need to be continually immersed in warm water. Trips to the freezer will not only halt our vibrational development, but will actually reverse the progress previously made. I find this metaphor to be very powerful. If we are serious about meditation, then in poker terms, we need to be all in. Meditation needs to become a way of life, rather than just an occasional visit to warm water. If this is all understood, then we should become highly motivated to spend as much time as possible in warm water and avoid trips to the freezer. The trouble is that we live in a freezer. Our entire modern culture is soaked in the low vibrational experience of stress. Everywhere we go, we encounter self-centered fear. Everyone is living in the deluded state of a separate personal body-mind identity. The waves on the surface are all trying to forge their own path and are inevitably crashing into each other. Fear, selfishness, self-righteousness, conflict, dis-ease, and addiction to self are generally the order of the day in our society. There are pockets of warm water, of course, but the overall landscape is frozen. We need to seek out the warm water and immerse ourselves in it as much as possible. The good news is that warm water is close to hand, if we know where to look for it. The first place to start is to find one or more spiritual gatherings to attend. Meditation groups, yoga classes, sound bath sessions, mantra singing, 12-step recovery meetings, and religious fellowship are obvious examples. All of these fall into the category of Sangha, which means community. Spiritual community generally has a higher vibration of consciousness than our cultural norm. Placing our own ice cube into the warm water of Sangha will aid the melting process. We will often feel much better after attending such groups, even if we don't really understand why. The reason is that our own beingness will subconsciously resonate upwards towards the collective vibration, and hence we will begin to experience the qualities of consciousness which hitherto had been missing. It doesn't really matter which particular groups we join, because they are all effectively aiming to achieve the same objective. The other important features of Sangha are connection and service. Consciousness is whole, and hence individual expressions have a built-in longing for reconnection. Interestingly, the word religion means to re-bind or reconnect. We don't need to be religious in the traditional sense in order to crave connection. It is a natural feature of the individuation of consciousness. The wave simply longs to become the ocean. Sangha provides the opportunity to reconnect with people who are on a similar path, and deep and meaningful friendships often result. We covered karma yoga in an earlier chapter, and Sangha often provides an ideal opportunity to be of service. Consciousness wants to express itself through us. The qualities of silence, stillness, peace, love, bliss, eternity, infinity, and wholeness reside within us and want to rise to the surface. As we express these qualities through service, we begin to experience them as they flow through us. Loving kindness is a powerful practice. Sangha is an ideal environment for this practice, but actually it can be extended into all aspects of our lives. Everything that we do can be seen as an opportunity to be of loving service. This is a really effective way to stay out of the freezer. As well as spiritual groups, there are many spiritual places where we can spend time. Buildings such as churches, mosques, and retreat centers have a vibrational energy that is difficult to define but impossible to miss. Consciousness is often palpably present in these sacred spaces, and our own vibrational experience benefits through resonance. Talking of places, another beneficial practice is to spend regular time in nature. Our man-made world of concrete and tarmac has a low vibration, akin to the freezer. Too much time spent in towns and cities is bound to have a detrimental effect. Conversely, nature is, of course, natural. The natural world is consciousness expressing itself in a multitude of diverse and beautiful ways. It feels uplifting precisely because our own vibration is literally being uplifted. Vibrationally speaking, it is freezing in the cities, but lovely and warm in the countryside. It's not a question of nature or nurture. Nature is nurture. Wherever we may be, a simple and effective practice is to sit in silence. We tend to think that silence is the absence of noise, but actually silence is the underlying reality. Noise arises from silence and subsides back into silence. Noise is temporary, whilst silence is permanent. Silence is one of the qualities of consciousness, so spending time in silence is the practice of abiding in consciousness. We often believe that achievement requires doingness. Sitting in silence does not require that we do anything. The mind will say that this is a waste of time. The mind is incorrect. Silence is a precious quality that is sorely missing in this relentlessly noisy world. And gold is perceived as a precious metal. We often describe something precious as being golden. In this respect, silence really is golden. Treasure is made from gold, as well as other precious material. Silence is part of the treasure that exists within each of us. Silence is warm water. Another powerful yet easy way to stay out of the freezer is to maintain a constant attitude of gratitude. There can be plenty in life to complain about and resist, but such resistance drags our vibration down. Life is frequently challenging, but challenges can be seen as opportunities to express the qualities of consciousness. We can either complain and moan, or we can bring loving kindness into play in any situation. If we take life personally, then we will suffer. If we take life as a wonderful opportunity to grow and expand, then everything can be seen as a blessing. This change in philosophy is very important in the context of meditation. A lack of gratitude will keep us frozen. Focusing on stress and worry will inevitably attract the very things that we are worrying about. An attitude which perceives everything in life as a blessing will lead us into a perpetual feeling of gratitude. This has nothing to do with circumstance. The mind will say that our particular lives are not worthy of gratitude, but once again, the mind is mistaken. We deny ourselves the treasure within by complaining about whatever happens on the surface. Acceptance and gratitude are much higher vibrations of consciousness than resistance, complaint, victimhood, and self-pity. The philosophy and constant practice of gratitude will pull the plug out of the freezer. It is only we ourselves who will plug it back in. It may be tempting at times, but the consequences will never be good. There are many ways in which we may be tempted back into the freezer, and it's not possible to cover all of them here. The temptations of the world are varied and numerous. We will each have our own vulnerabilities. Whilst the scope is vast, the underlying cause of freezing is always the same. The root cause of suffering is the compulsive, addictive belief in being a separate wave, rather than being the entire ocean. Our motives can be very subtle and seemingly justified, but every time we act due to self-interest, we keep ourselves trapped on the surface. The key is to question our motives and to accept and own what we find. The overall direction of travel is to seek warm water and avoid the freezer. The modern world has created many damaging temptations to remain frozen. Whether these aspects of modern life are accidental or deliberate is a matter for the conspiracy theorists, but nevertheless the temptations do exist. I would like to cover just a few of them to illustrate the point. The media industry is very dominant in modern cultures. We are fed a relentless cocktail of negativity. Sensationalist reporting of tragedy, conflict, criminality, scandal and suffering dominate our newsprint and airwaves. It is a worldwide industry, and businesses compete for our eyeballs and subscriptions. Social media joins the fray and also adds to the darkness by creating fake news and content. We now even have AI producing pure fiction. Algorithms capture our online activity and feed us exactly what we are looking for. It's all about money and exploitation, yet we freely participate in it like lambs to the slaughter. We read and watch the news. We silently judge and engage in criticism. We form opinions and beliefs. Sometimes we express these beliefs and add more fuel to the fire of division and conflict. We take our selfies and post on social media, craving attention and approval. We have our phones with us 24/7 and have become addicted to the consumption of negativity. We convince ourselves that we need to stay in touch. We have to know what's going on, otherwise we may get caught out. We live in a constant state of fear and agitation, and yet we still keep going back for more. 1 minute we are sat in meditation, and the next minute we are ranting at some injustice thousands of miles away on the other side of the planet. 1 step forward, 1 step backward. No progress. Consumerism is the mother of greed. We want the next gadget, the next fix, the next ego-feeding status symbol. We perform soul-destroying jobs, spend money that we don't have on things that we don't need, and then stress about financial insecurity. This relentless desire for material satisfaction and security drives all manner of selfish and dysfunctional behavior, yet we still want more. We believe that ownership means security. It's rather sobering to realize that a wave cannot own anything. It is all a man-made illusion and a complete distraction that prevents us from finding our own contentment. We are seeking the qualities of consciousness in the material world and will forever remain unfulfilled. We eat and drink for pleasure rather than nourishment. We believe that life is about cramming in as much pleasure as we can before the clock runs down. We indulge in gluttony to the point of obesity and disease, while significant sections of the population continue to starve. We then rely on the medical and pharmaceutical industries to address all of this physical, mental and emotional disease. We try to buy our way out of the problems that we have largely created ourselves. I could go on and on. The lunatics are running the asylum, and it's all a question of motive and misunderstanding. The thing that's driving all of this madness is the natural desire for the attributes of consciousness, but humankind does not realize that it already has the capacity to be a natural expression of these very qualities. Little waves learn from the bigger waves. The blind lead the blind. Generation after generation of waves, running their selfish course and then hitting the shore. As the famous French saying by Jean-Baptiste Alphonse Karr goes, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Wisdom remains in the depths and has not reached the surface, despite many attempts to bring it to light. Such is the world that we inhabit. It's all temporary. It's all consciousness. None of it really matters. The ocean is eternal, and new waves will come and go. What does matter is where we are in all of this. Each individual who awakens to the truth has the capacity to wake up many more. Our vibration is important. Every individual vibration is a part of the whole, so we each make a difference, however minuscule that difference may seem to be. The way to make this difference is to develop and engage in an integrated meditation practice. Meditation is what really matters. We each have the right and the power to choose our own lifestyles. This is the gift of free will. In the context of vibrational well-being, the question can only ever be whether or not our choices are wise. If we're serious about meditation, then the wise choice must be to frequently bathe in warm spiritual water and to stay out of the freezer as much as possible.